Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. In my previous video, I explained how Tesla will create deflation in the economy. In this video, I wanted to explore what the future of this deflated economy would look like. We'll now be working under the assumption that transport and energy prices have been reduced significantly. So what does that mean for everything else? We're seeing deflation already. Did you know the price of heroin is cheaper now? Okay, not the best product to come down in price, but black markets operate in perfect capitalist markets. So from an economic perspective, it's very interesting. So previously opium farmers would use diesel generators to power their farms. Now they can use solar, which is far cheaper and more convenient, as they no longer have to continually purchase more diesel. As the costs come down, the profits increase. But when profits increase, it becomes more lucrative for other people to farm. Then the supply increases. When we have excess supply, price comes down. When price comes down, demand increases to match the new supply. So we've just explained the deflation of heroin. We're already seeing this. But diesel generators are the most expensive, inefficient way of getting electricity, not to mention the worst environmentally. But in a lot of developing countries, they previously had no choice. There wasn't a solid electrical grid to serve power to their homes. The poorer people are, then the more time and effort they put into finding ways to save money. $1 saved is $1 earned, or $1.50 earned before tax. However, the price of solar is coming down further, and rapidly too. Look how much improvement Tesla's 4680 batteries are from the 2170s. Within time, Tesla and others in the industry will create even more efficient solar panels. Okay, so what does that mean for the rest of us, who don't use heroin? Well, solar and wind will continue to replace oil and gas for power generation, and batteries add to the feasibility even more. Not only that, batteries will provide power when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing. Long story short, power will simply be cheaper. Eventually, considerably cheaper, as it will be created for free. No need to mine and burn coal with continuous cost. So yes, your monthly power bill should come down to half of what it is now, but possibly over time, maybe as much as 1/5. It's just that much more efficient. It's a better system. But that's your power bill. What about in the commercial and industrial sectors too? Of course their power bills will reduce as well. It will be tough for the likes of a skyscraper to power the building with a solar on the roof. The volume to surface area is too high, but as the grid moves over to solar, wind and battery, then the overall electricity prices will come down anyway. On top of that, there are new technologies coming out continually, such as solar glass. That's right, a window that connects as a solar panel, like what Tesla did for tiles, but for windows. And I hope one day Tesla will bring out a version of this too. Currently they are not particularly efficient and not feasible, but would be ideal for a skyscraper. So this means that buildings can run cheaper, business overheads reduce, the cost of manufacturing becomes a lot cheaper, as a lot of the cost is in the actual power used to create the products. Thanks to capitalism, this will then drive down prices to consumers at every stage of the process, from mining the initial resources to manufacturing it, to the sales staff in the office, to the retail store that sells it. All stages benefit from a lower cost of power. But Tesla is not just an energy company. In fact, it's barely an energy company right now. It's far more a transportation company. So let's feed that into the entire process of creating a product too. When mining, the trucks could all be autonomous working in the mines, and of course powered by battery. Now, Tesla doesn't show any signs of going into heavy equipment engines industry, but it's inevitable that someone will, whether it's the likes of Caterpillar eventually evolving themselves into it, or a new entrant to disrupt the old legacy companies. Anyway, mining costs will be reduced from battery and autonomous technology, then delivering raw materials in battery-powered transport driven autonomously to the manufacturer, and again, the products delivered autonomously to where they need to go, whether at a hub, wholesaler, retailer, or end consumer. We've removed a significant energy cost from source and a lot of labour that can now be utilised better than simply driving. Remember, I'm not saying this will happen tomorrow or anytime soon. I'm saying it is an inevitable eventually. But we will likely see a big change this decade anyway. So everything will become cheaper. Food, building costs, all stuff. What happens when things get cheaper though? And in addition to that, consumers have more discretionary income from all these savings. People want more of it. Supply and demand. So in turn, this would then mean that we would need to produce more in order to service this extra demand. Personally, I'm not a big fan of consumerism. It's set up to create an inevitable death economy. particularly if it means more plastic is consumed. It's wasteful and unnecessary. At least this extra increased consuming won't impact climate change at this stage, as no fossil fuels should be burnt throughout the process. But we don't want our planet to look like one big garbage dump either. But wait, we're also assuming here that people will be earning the same as before. But we've had a deflationary movement. How does that affect wages? Well, the deflationary movement that started in the 80s by outsourcing manufacturing to China has also impacted wages. It's been felt everywhere across the world, with the exception of the likes of China, South Korea and Vietnam. But as far as the US is concerned, wages have not been increasing as much as they used to, and this is why. So will wage deflation also proliferate through the economy? And if so, how? Well, as far as China was concerned, it meant the manufacturing jobs were lost in the economy. If unemployment is higher, then business owners have more potential staff to choose from, which means they don't have to pay the staff as much. Supply and demand. Of course, minimum wages can create issues here too. Okay, so who loses their jobs in this scenario? Obviously all the drivers. In America alone, there are around 5 million people who make a living driving professionally. There's no need for them to have a job anymore. Over another million people work in fossil fuel-related industries too. So what am I saying? About 200 million people work in the US, so this is around 3% of the working population will lose their jobs. However, green energy is creating a lot of new jobs right now, and will continue to grow massively, so that will offset a lot of it. It may even replace more jobs than are lost from the fossil fuel energy related jobs. And although this transition will happen fast, it may still take a decade, giving people time to retrain or possibly be retired by then. And it's likely there isn't going to be that much new labour deciding on careers in these industries. However, this is different. It is a new technology, which often ends up creating more jobs, like computers and the internet did. Businesses that were not feasible before due to high energy or transport costs suddenly are now. So it's possible that after some adjustment and retraining for some workers, then there could be even more jobs than before. Wages might be even higher than previously, and costs will certainly be down too. The entire world has a better standard of living as a result. And people think Tesla are changing the world by making really quick electric cars. The picture is much bigger than that when you put it all together. This solves everything. The reason there is so much poverty in the world is scarcity. Reducing the cost of everything creates abundance. The rest of the world can benefit from. So much war and civil unrest in the world has been related to oil. It also decentralizes wealth more too. Currently, the fossil fuel industries are still very profitable and have been for a very long time. So much money has been made from these industries. Black gold. I mean, look at Saudi Aramco. The company brings in over $300 billion of revenue a year. It was the most valuable company in the world. Because it's so much money, there's so many moats created. So these rich individuals can keep it all to themselves. Cartels were created, such as OPEC, which means they're able to fix prices. You see, oil is an inelastic demand, which means if you raise prices, the demand is not affected so much. In that doing so, it will increase profits. And in a healthy capitalist environment, competition keeps these prices down. But with a cartel that controls so much of the global oil supply, they're able to keep the prices above a natural market supply and demand. This is known as price fixing. On top of that, they have so much money, they can afford plenty of lobbyists to help them in the government. This ends up becoming crony capitalism, and governments actually offer fossil fuel companies subsidies on top of their already enormous profits, while they continue on to pollute our planet for an easy dollar. However, when it is you and me creating power with our own solar tiles, or an investor setting up their own solar farm, then there are minimal barriers to entry. Almost anyone can start contributing to energy and profiting from it. In fact, for any investor, they would look at return on investment. It might cost perhaps $10 million to set up a solar farm with battery storage, but that might earn you $1 million a year profit, and with very little maintenance or management. The same investor might also consider real estate. A $10 million building with a tenant fixed for 5 years, earning $500,000 a year. Already the return is half. Okay, I did literally pull that return on a solar farm out of thin air, so that might not be quite a fair comparison on income. But after 5 years, the property may lose its tenant. It may be vacant for a whole year. The property will require some maintenance costs too. It can be a hassle compared to just running a solar farm, and stress of losing a tenant, particularly in a down market. The sun will be a loyal tenant on a solar farm. And yes, you can leverage on property and use other people's money, or opium. Oops, how do we get back to heroin again? Anyway, I'm sure banks will be willing to lend on solar farms too. All these extra profits hoarded from these legacy industries are gone. They simply don't work in this new environment. However, Tesla will be taking a cut on every part of it. They will not only be selling the solar, cars, batteries, but they'll be getting income from the full self-driving, autonomous taxis, the charging, and controlling power with their autobidder software. I'm sure there will be competition too. I mean, I want there to be competition. Competition is what makes products better and cheaper to the consumer. It would also be a little scary if one company controlled everything, even if it was Tesla. But I would expect Tesla to be the leader still. Anyway, I find this all very exciting and love that Tesla are literally giving power to the people. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.